How are you? My name is Mike, and I'm gonna be trying to put out a few videos and just trying to be social. And I do think I have something to say, and I think this is the way people are saying it now. So I'm giving it a try. So, pretty much, I'm a prepper who feels largely vindicated at this point. I was called crazy, still called crazy, um, for years. It's not so much like most people would think of a prepper. I'm not really into guns. I don't own any guns. Although home defense and personal defense are something I do take seriously and have no problem with guns. I kind of started backwards. I do think that the government and other governments and international organizations and crazy people on the street, who everybody is trying to extort, at the very least, extort happiness on the backs of strangers, and oftentimes, um, that extortion of happiness comes with a reduction in lifespan. So things like dumping poison into the water supply, it's easy. It makes money for them. It kills you. And then right down to, negative media and music and stuff like that, where it's like, encouraging you to kill yourself, or, and they might be saying it about themselves, but, it's what becomes popular oftentimes is negative. It's negative. So I call them slow kill programs, where, like, you're not being attacked in a conventional war, but these people are not your friends, and not acting in your best interest. And that includes healthcare and everything. I see threats everywhere. Um, water supply, food supply, air supply. Those are kind of where I started my prepping. So I started with really high quality water filtration, learning about biology and nutrition and exercise, and trying to buy high quality food, and then slowly moved outwards from there, where it was going from a slow kill to a crisis event planning, where I started to look, if this happens, there could be an interruption of this service or that service. So I did, you know. Anyway, this is kind of my shielding. I sleep underground, so this is the basement. And I moved down here not that long ago. I did previously live above ground, but did have radiation shielding above my bed, there as well. So above my head is all different materials: silver, copper. Um, it's not so thick where it's expensive, but it's designed to block, um, radio and non-ionizing radiation from cell phones, and microwave radiation and all that sort of stuff. And the basic theory is that it can be used for surveillance. It can be used for, mild agitation. But even if it's not being weaponized for, political or social advantage, it's still potentially interfering with, proper sleep and recovery. And in doing so, reducing your quality of health and the duration of your healthy lifespan. So I I'm not gonna lie, I do feel targeted at times, for political or social advantages, by groups, including, like, almost exclusively the government. But certainly, it's global communism is an octopus that the government of one country is always going to just be a tentacle of, and then, um, selectively independent when it serves the interest of that particular appendage. Um, and then anyway, so I moved into more long-term planning, and once I kind of achieved my health goals and my, I felt like that investment in long or slow kill programs was no longer really economically worthwhile. I did start planning for long term crisis. So I have a couple years worth of food stocked, and that's my personal supply. So I have two children, and a lot of this worrying is based on my separation from them. Um, Again, I'm a crazy person, so I can't even you know email my kids, and it makes you crazy. You know, I was a good father. I am a good father. I just, you know, I don't really have an explanation for it. There's something wrong with me, or there's something wrong with the system, and I don't know. I kind of got to a point after asking that there's something wrong with me, or there's something wrong with the system, and would I be able to know the difference from an egocentric point of view? And you don't. But the question became more the government or the people imposing these social norms on me, and standing between me and my children, which is kind of a big deal if you were to think about it in physical terms. It's done through the court system, it's done from a distance with paperwork, but if you were to think about physically standing between a father and his kids, you would need a good goddamn reason. You would be a fucking piece of shit, excuse my language, if you just stood between a father and his kids and you didn't have, like, oh, I saw him hit them, or something really concrete. But they can do it from a distance. They feel it's comfortable for them to stand between a father and his kids from behind whatever um, authority structure they've constructed. It's not natural. It's not a natural authority structure. It's an artificial one created by individuals who arose out of a natural hierarchy. And I just mean the family structure. But to stand between, to interrupt that hierarchy with an artificial one, you better have a good reason. So I kind of got to the point where I was like, the government is either really incompetent or really malicious. And it's been demonstrated to me with a high degree of certainty that we are not dealing with incompetent people. They are not ill suited for their profession of policing and legislating. They are extremely skilled and refined at war making, surveillance, harassment, plausible deniability, and to even think that any individual, or even any novice group, because they're refined to the point where you're like, holy fuck, they've been doing it for thousands of years and they took notes. To think that any peace loving individual or group could confront them and assert their will is insane. So that's the situation that I find myself in, is basically hunker down, do my best to avoid what I feel are minor threats that are like slivers until you die by 1,000 cuts. Not to do my best, but to not to die from stress over that. To do my best with that, and then to do my best to reasonably take precautions for interruptions of service. Because if you can't trust them to be smart and good at the same time. Um, how can you trust them to keep the food supply there, or trust them to keep the water clean? You know, they're either smart and good, or you better take care of yourself. And I'm of the opinion that I better take care of myself. So, but I don't think, you know, if you go out beyond 2 years, if you got a supply of food for yourself for more than 2 years, is that a planet you really want to live on? So that's basically where I'm at. Is you know, 6 months worth of food for family, plus trapping equipment, fishing equipment, hunting equipment, live off the land, you know. But 6 months for a family, 2 years for an individual, assuming that any individual is going to have to, you know, carry at least one soul with them, if not two or three, you know, just as a matter of humanity. But, you know, you start seeing large groups of people, man, that humanity switch shuts off. And I don't know. So that's basically where I'm at. Is I'm a prepper who, you know, shields himself from radiation. And I'm one of those 5Gs. You know what though? It's not so much that 5G. It will cause like cortisol spikes, and they could definitely target you. And they have like the millimeter wavelengths. They can see through your clothes. They can they can vibrate your skull in such a way that you hear a voice. You know, the technology exists. I'm not saying that people who hear voices are being targeted by a, you know, a, a very short wave, you know, millimeter wavelength transmitter with high power. You know, that would be what it would take. But the technology exists, and eventually the rollout of it will carry that intrinsic capability for surveillance and harassment. And beyond that, on a microorganism level, you know, with specific frequencies, they can drive the genetic evolution of bacteria from, you know, a normal bacteria to an antibiotic resistant bacteria. Now, that to me is a proof that it can not only be weaponized in an indirect kind of second generation way, but that it's a legitimate stressor. And it depends on the shape of the microorganism. But inside your body, you got all sorts of stuff, and it's all sorts of shapes. And so, you know, it's foreign metals, and, you know, DNA and proteins, and you got a whole microbiome, and the stuff is constantly evolving and changing shapes. So to think it's not going to have an impact is, I think, maliciously misleading. So I am one of those people who takes precautions, including thermal radiation. I'm unashamed, and I'm in trouble because of it. But I won't talk about that. So I think this is enough. I I don't know how much to talk about or show, but, you know, crazy rant at the world. This is Mike. I'll see you guys later. Bye.